And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to day number 3 of the WTL 2023 Winter Code A. I'm, of course, as Live VIP, and with me, I'm joined by the lovely people in the chat, by the plushies as well. And as you can see, we are going to be saying goodbye to some of these teams. The elimination rounds are upon us. Up tonight, we have 2 best of 7s. We have Mystery Gaming versus LittleFairy, and we have Team Roddy versus IG. Oh boy. For those wondering, here in Code A, we did go through some grueling qualifiers to make it this far here in the tournament. I mean, of course, the teams put in a lot of work to make it this far, but this is merely Code A, and Code S is still ahead of us as well. And in this bracket, the top 3 teams, the top 3 will make it through into the main event, into Code S. It's going to be a brutal bracket. It's already been a brutal bracket. There's so many big names, so many big players already in this qualifier. And tonight, we say goodbye to some of these teams. Up first is going to be Mystery Gaming versus LittleFairy. Oh boy, Mystery Gaming versus LittleFairy, some pretty big teams. It was crazy to see Mystery Gaming fall in the first round. They are one of the favorite teams out there, so they're going to still be a favorite team, I think, coming through the lower portion of the bracket. And up first, we have RagnaroK versus ForJumy. Oh my god, already a spicy ZVP is ahead of us. RagnaroK, of course, being one of the best Zerg players in South Korea in the world. ForJumy being a pretty terrifying Protoss player from the European region as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Something that we found out, though, something that we were able to identify, I think it was in day one of Code A, is that RagnaroK, sure, he is one of the best players in South Korea in the world. Yeah, that's all great and all, but it's a team league. It's a team league format, and one player cannot carry a team. You need everyone else to step it up as well. So I think we all expect RagnaroK to do well. He's the ace player for Mystery Gaming. But what about the other players? What about the rest of his team? Can they step it up here alongside him? We're here to find out. As spawning in the top left-hand corner of Dragon Scales for Mystery Gaming, it is RagnaroK. It is RagnaroK. Okay. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the German Protoss player representing LittleFairy. It is ForJumy. And I am very quickly going to try and set up some predictions. I know it's a little bit late. I know. But we'll try to get some... Oh, no. We got some predictions going, Poppy, for the next minute. If you're in the chat, place your bets. Place your bets on who you think is going to... Or what you think the result is going to be. Whether it's going to be RagnaroK, ForJumy, or a tied 1-1 score. For those wondering, this is a best of 2, not a best of 3. So 1-1s are a thing. And that is all you need. That's the bare minimum you need here to cause an upset, to bring down the opposing player. So, as we get into this, RagnaroK has been very fond of this opener in every single matchup, except for ZVZ, every now and then in ZVZ as well. He's going for the 15-15. Of course, with a 15 hatch timing, you do manage to get it on location without being too disturbed by the Protoss, by the pylon block. So, ForJumy won't be able to force the unnatural natural, and RagnaroK is going to have a much more comfortable early game as he does get his hatchery up and running. And my eyes are really on ForJumy. I say that. It's going to be a tough one here. RagnaroK, he's not your typical Zerg player. Unlike some of the other Zerg players out there, like Solar or Serral, RagnaroK is very unpredictable. I guess Serral has become a little bit unpredictable recently as well. But RagnaroK, he's willing to be aggressive. He's willing to be cheesy, willing to go all in. So you can't quite be too greedy against him. You can't, or you do have to be as adept as possible when it comes to scouting him as well, just because he does like dictating the pace of the game. So I'm sure ForJumy is well aware of that. Again, the players, they have had a little bit of time to prepare for this matchup, to prepare for this series. They've had around just under 24 hours. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but they have been able to take that moment to kind of ruminate over themselves, to go over the matchup, to study their opponents. And there we go, ForJumy already throwing out a curveball. It's a robo opener. Okay, all right. So straight up, ForJumy, he's doing something out of the norm here. We expect a Twilight Council opener or a Stargate opener at least. Stargate being more standard, Twilight Council being more aggressive. A Robo feels pretty all in. We'll see what kind of direction he goes with this. There are different options, right? This could just be for a disruptor drop. This could be for a fast robotics bay, into a prism, into a disruptor, for some harass across the map, to get into the mid game, to get into, you know, a more solid 3-base setup. If we throw down additional gateways, this could be a warp prism, and then we go all in with vanilla gateway units. We can get into immortal production as well. Oh my god. Wait, what? ForJumy, he threw down a second robo, right? Or did he cancel? I think he canceled. No, yeah, second robo. Double robo production with a robotics bay. Okay, so this is 100% an all-in. This is not what I was expecting, though. Double robo production, so you can make 2 colossi at a time. A prism is on the way, whether it's okay. We gotta take a step back. I think I've seen Nina do this before and Estrella do this. 100%. I think I saw Estrella do this a couple of months ago. This could just be a double disruptor drop, as in like 2 warp prisms. Are we gonna make 2 warp prisms? Man, we're crazy. Or are we just gonna go all in? Yeah, ForJumy just playing like a madman. Okay, we have that first disruptor on the way with the first prism. Are we gonna get into a second disruptor? All right. Overlord is diving into the main base. RagnaroK is gonna get a scat up here. This is a very committed, very expensive opener for ForJumy. Because he has very little map control. He has no blink. He has no charge. He has nothing else other than these disruptors, and this will be scattered. RagnaroK is a diva enjoyer. That was the diva voice packer. But yeah, 2 disruptors at a time. Yep, it's gonna be. Yep, there we go. 2 warp prisms. So I believe Estrella was doing this around the start of the year. I do recall seeing this where we have 2 warp prisms, 1 on either side of the map. We're going to be dropping all over the place. The downside is that we're going to be very vulnerable back at home. There's very little to defend. There's a couple of stalkers, a couple of adepts. I wonder if RagnaroK will identify that. I wonder how RagnaroK can piece this together, because yep, he's sending his roaches across the map. There's no reason to keep them at home. And ForJumy, he's going to be in quite a bit of trouble back at home. Here we go. The disruptors, they have arrived. 2 Novas are going to be going off, and 2 Novas do kill a queen. So the first queen does go down, and meanwhile, up the splits. Ooh, not good enough. 2 Ravagers fall as well. So far, the defense is looking pretty good. There's no shield battery. No shield battery. RagnaroK, he's looking to bust in. The wall is not a wall. The Lings, they're flooding into the natural base. The boys have to be pulled, and the army is getting surrounded. The disruptors, they do race back home to defend, but I believe the Nova is still on cooldown. Another disruptor just come out. The Nova! Up! Splits are pretty good, but alas, the natural base is compromised. RagnaroK, he's busting into the main base as well. The disruptors are doing what they can, but one of them may go down. The gateways are depowered. Nothing can be warped in. Okay, we have 2 gateways in the main. An Immortal has come out as well. But the Immortal's looking very exposed. The Nexus is going to fall behind this. RagnaroK, he is droning. All he needs to do is drone over. Does not go off. Oof. Immortal barely goes down. GG gets called, and RagnaroK will take game number 1. Oh my god. The hell did we just watch? GG, well played. I love the creativity. I love the creativity coming up from ForJumy. Obviously, RagnaroK is the favorite player. He is by far the best player in this entire matchup between these 2 teams. So you have to come in with something different, something prepared. But RagnaroK was able to get a full scout and correctly identified that, hey, if you're going for double disruptor drops, if you're being this wild with it, you're not going to have anything at home to defend. You're going to have very little at home to defend. And RagnaroK, he was so decisive. And this is what we were talking about beforehand at the start of the game, about how RagnaroK, he is more than willing to be aggressive. He's more than willing to go all in himself. So after spotting the opener, Ravagers, Lings, flood across the map, break the natural, GG. RagnaroK takes the first game. But regardless, I appreciate that ForJumy was trying something different, because I do think you do need to do something a little bit different here when going up against RagnaroK. Oh, let's go. Yo, shout to Star Dash in the chat. Dash, he practiced with Ender. Oh, that's really cool. That's really interesting. I didn't know that Ender was close with ForJumy. That's really sick. That's really sick. I didn't know they were close like that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but regardless, really cool to hear. Shout out to Ender, of course. Caviar, Napoleon, Marquises Acampado himself. GG. GG, Bobby. So streamed, yeah. I mean, we raided Ender last night, if you recall. Did raid him. We watched it and brainstorming how to stop. Oh, okay. He said Australia. Yeah, I was mentioning that Australia was doing it at the start of the year. Was mentioning that. Do recall that. As we're getting into our next game, and in the top left-hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have the South Korean Zerg player leading the series 1-0. It is RagnaroK. Home Street Gaming. And spawning in the bottom. Oh. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have the team Twisted Fairy. Oh my god, LittleFairy. It is ForJumy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we casted Astray to do this. I'm pretty sure we casted Astray to do it a couple of times at the start of the year. We were fortunate enough to see that. So that's why as soon as I saw that, like the memory triggered out. First, my brain went to Nina, and then I'm like, I think Nina's done this before, but I do recall Astray doing it as well. Yeah, unfortunately, not quite working out in game 1, but now we're getting into game number 2. Getting into that second game. I see the chat catching up as well. And yeah, the Code S qualifiers were last night, and it was a shame. It was a shame that RagnaroK. That's not the first time either this year. I think it was season 1. RagnaroK also didn't qualify for Code S. So it just goes to show how brutal and how cutthroat the Code S qualifiers can be. And on top of that, of course, Code S has shrunk over time. There are less slots available in Code S. It's a smaller tournament than what it used to be. So unfortunately for RagnaroK won't be able to be a part of that. It is a shame. It is a shame. But, you know, that does mean that he can focus on other events. He can focus on events like WTL. If he does make it into Code S, I should say. Code S of WTL. It's kind of weird. There are now 2 events that have Code S in their name, but he didn't make it into GSL Code S, but he could get into WTL Code S. Is what I'm getting at. As here we go for now, we do have ForJumy going for a standard Gate Cyber into his expansion. Gate expands, and now he's going for a Stargate opener. Interesting location. The Stargate is going to be hidden behind the natural, not in the main base, so it's going to be a little bit more hidden here compared to the previous game. And we'll see if RagnaroK can get eyes on this. We'll see what ForJumy decides to go for. As the Lings do dip in, really good awareness here from RagnaroK, identifying when the Adept did move out, and the Lings go into the main base for a full scout. They do see that the pylon is missing. It's not in the main, so he may be bamboozled. RagnaroK, he may believe that the pylon is proxied, unless he's able to get into the natural. It looks like he will. The Adept is trying to keep up, and the boys are being pulled, but the Stargate is spotted. GG. I mean, ForJumy, he was doing such a great job denying the scouts, but towards the end, RagnaroK was able to get eyes on it. So he's able to be aware that, okay, there's no proxy, it's a Stargate, it's an Oracle as well. So RagnaroK has all the information he needs, and he's taking the center base as his third. A very dangerous base here from RagnaroK, and what I mean by that is that with this base, you can spread creep very quickly across the map. You can go into a Queen Roach all in. You can be very aggressive and very assertive. Meanwhile, ForJumy, interesting, going to be following up the first Oracle with a Void Ray. Now, this Void Ray is going to be hunting down Overlords, is going to be denying vision from RagnaroK, and it could lead into Stargate play, like into a second Stargate, or it could just go into a second Oracle and into a third base and into normal play. Regardless, the goal here for ForJumy is to keep RagnaroK in the dark, is to keep him guessing as to what the Protoss is up to. As the Overlord goes on in, confirms the second gateway, confirms the Void Ray on the way, and the Overlord is just trying to get as much scouting information as possible before it goes down, before it does die, as the Void Ray has arrived. Meanwhile, as the third base is being taken, Lings are moving out to try to deny it. Adepts are in position, good Sim City. Oracle is chilling out as well, and ForJumy will preserve his third. The downside is that his Oracle is kept at home, so he hasn't been able to harass. He hasn't really been able to touch the economy of RagnaroK. RagnaroK has been droning happily. taking his center base, getting his gases. Roach Warren is thrown down at a reasonable time. I say reasonable. That was like a 4-minute 20, 4-minute-ish Roach Warren. So a little bit earlier than we expect, but that may just be because of the map size. This is a small map, so maybe just want to get into that a little bit earlier. Additional queens are on the way. I'm feeling a queen walk across the map. Creep is slowly spreading. Yeah, that is going to be a lot of queens available. At the same time, we have ForJumy going to charge, going to +1. He's not going for a second Stargate. He's not going into Skytoss. Skytoss has been seen and has been known to be quite popular on this map. But you can see the queens being very assertive already. And yeah, the rocks are going to be knocked down. Roaches are on the way. RagnaroK, he's cutting workers here at 50. We saw the additional queens in production, and that is not normal unless we were going for a committed push like this. And now ForJumy should be aware. He needs to get ready. We have 2 more gates on the way. We have a rowboat on the way. How many shield batteries do we have at the third base? The third is looking pretty barren. I think there's only 1 shield battery, 1 overcharge. That is not going to be enough. The move that has been spotted. There we go. We have cannons in production. But RagnaroK is going to hit like a truck. And ForJumy, he's still waiting for charge to finish up. A decent stasis trap. We have a couple more stasises thrown down. There we go. More shield batteries on the way. These shield batteries, though, they feel late. The stack defense does feel a little bit too late here for ForJumy. Here we go. RagnaroK coming in from behind, getting on top of the shield batteries, the cannons as well. Queen's putting in a lot of work on that Void Ray. Overcharge barely does keep it alive. But the Biles, they will connect. They take down the shield battery. Void Ray is being forced back. A lot of the cannons are finishing. A lot of the shield batteries as well. Is it barely going to be enough? ForJumy warping in everything he can, and it looks like he's barely holding on. ForJumy did lose the Void Ray in the end, but he does hold. And RagnaroK is backing off. Now RagnaroK is suddenly in a rough position. He doesn't have any upgrades. He has no Evo chamber. We have the Baliness on the way. RagnaroK, he was pretty committed with that attack, and he lost almost everything there. That was a clutch defense from ForJumy. Again, the cannons and shield batteries did finish up just in time. And now he can get into his game. Immortals in production. Charge is done as well. No Blink, unfortunately, but with Charge and with eventual Archons, he can go for one strong push, especially with +2. ForJumy is suddenly in the driver's seat. He's ahead in the economy. He's ahead in upgrades. My eyes are really on RagnaroK right now. Like, how does he plan on coming back in this game? For now, he's droning. So I assumed, I was like, is he going to go for like a 66 drone all in? Is he going to like go for another big attack? Clearly, we can see that that would not work. ForJumy very quickly is just replacing all his stack defense, his cannons, his shield batteries. He's fortifying himself on 3 bases. And RagnaroK likewise is droning. He's taking his 4th, getting his mineral line up and running, going to be working on a 5th base. I think the best shot here for RagnaroK is to wait for his opponent to push into him. Wait for the Protoss to push onto creep. And to try to even get us around. We can see RagnaroK working through those rocks. Making sure he has as much space as possible, as much maneuverability as possible. As he's continuing to spread that creep. Now, ForJumy is working on Storm, and that is something to bear in mind. There's no real answer to the Storm yet. We can see RagnaroK, he's going to be committing to Link Main Roach Ravager. He's not taking up into an Infestation Pit or into a Hydra Den, so there's no Hive Tech. Oh, I'm not too sure about this, but RagnaroK looking to engage. Pushing into 4 Immortals. Decent Bailey connections. The Baileys, they come in from behind, they come in from the front, they connect with the High Templar. And they barely do get into the mineral line as well. Very good connections. I'm not too sure about continuing to push in, but it looks like he's able to get on top of some of these high-tech units. He takes down an Immortal and an Archon. RagnaroK, he will have to respect the Immortals, though, and I do think he overextended a little bit too much towards the end there. I think the Bailey connections were good. I don't think we needed to push on any further than that. As ForJumy has a bit of momentum going his way, but we have more Roaches and Ravagers in production. The reinforcements are arriving for RagnaroK. And once they do, he can collapse on this army. Yeah, the Banelings are rolling on in. Oh, they force the High Templar to morph into an Archon. Prism is across the map, but I think it's going to go down. Oh, just barely managed to warp in a couple of units. The Ravagers! The Ravagers are exposed. ForJumy, he is fighting back quite hard. And again, this Immortal count is really going a long way. Likewise, the creep is receding, but RagnaroK, he has no chill. He has no chill. He's moving out. He's looking to collapse on the army. He just checked for a 4th base. He sees no 4th, and I appreciate this from RagnaroK. He's, very mature here, as he's not going to try to force the issue at the 3rd. Not again, not after failing the last time. He's going to back off, take another base, and drone. Get up into a hive. We have 2-1 on the way, +2 melee, +1 range. Hive tech grants access to Vipers and Adrenal Glands. Outside of spreading creep, I think RagnaroK, it's a really wise choice here to just back off and to regroup. That creep, though, he does need to work on it. We are lacking creep in the center of the map, and that could kill him. It is going to be necessary to slow down the eventual push of ForJumy. Meanwhile, ForJumy's kind of forcing himself all in. Interesting. +1 air attack is on the way. Off of a 3-base economy? I'm not so sure about that. I like the idea of going into Skytoss, but we do need a 4th. We do need another base up and running. Without it, we can't really afford carriers or Tempests or anything like that. And here we go, RagnaroK pushing in once again. We have a 2nd Stargate. A Fleet Beacon is on the way. ForJumy is looking to transition into Skytoss. He doesn't have the best economy for it. Lingbane rolling in once again, getting on top of the High Templar. Oh, but the Immortals do stand strong. I do think this time, again, the initial Lingbane pushes here they're good trades. They're good trades for RagnaroK. Meanwhile, across the map, looks like a couple of workers are going down to some Zealot harass. 5 drones. Not bad. But the Hive is done. Hive is done. Spire is on the way. Adrenal Glands are on the way. I would like some Vipers. Vipers would be insane at this point. As Roach reinforcements come in. 4th base is denied. RagnaroK, all he has to do is just deny the 4th over and over again. Starve out the Protoss. As long as RagnaroK doesn't overextend and try to force the issue at the 3rd, he should be able to get up into a solid enough position. Refine his army, get up into Corruptors, Broodlords. As ForJumy is attempting to take that 4th base once again. And this time, though, the army's in position. This time we have cannons and shield batteries at the 4th. We have High Templar for Storm. ForJumy is ready to receive. Yeah, so far, very good storms here on the Lingbane, on the Roaches. Despite that, there just isn't enough to support these Immortals. The Immortals are exposed, and we do dive on top of them. Archons are going down again. Great trades for RagnaroK. But these Immortals, they're not really being replaced. Only 3 of them survive. ForJumy holds onto the 4th base, but at what cost? As we are making a couple of carriers at a time. Corruptors are on the way. Greater Spire on the way as well. RagnaroK, he has the answer to Skytoss. I want to say we're on 2 carriers, maybe 3. But ForJumy does finally get the fourth base up and running. The downside is that it took a lot. It took a lot to get the fourth base. A lot of losses came on the way as well. Immortals, Archons, High Templar, expensive losses. The carriers are revealed. Bling Bane rolling in once again. Those were the only two storms available. Archons are going down. Corruptors are on the way. And even before we can get into Corruptors, we can see the Roaches bust on through. Get on top of him. Another Immortal. Up, can we get the last one? Up! Barely, we will not. The Immortal survives on, what, 1, 2 HP? Jesus. Carrier count is up to 4. We've got 6 carriers on the way. Well, 2 more carriers for 6 in total. We have High Templar for Storm. No Archons, unfortunately. But RagnaroK has enough time here to build up an army to contest this. As ForJumy moves out, a Link counterattack forces him back home. While the Corruptor count gets higher and higher. And ForJumy, he unfortunately hasn't hit critical mass of Skytoss yet. Not yet, as we do have a big storm. The Corruptors, they dive on in, they dive on top of the carriers. One after another, they're falling. There's just not enough to stop them, not enough to slow them down. And there's just almost nothing left here for ForJumy, for the Protoss. And he stumbled his way into those carriers. GG is going to get called, and RagnaroK takes the series 2-0, taking down ForJumy and having a strong start here for his team. GG. Alas, ForJumy, again, as he was trying to get into his carrier production, his fourth was delayed. He was losing and just, bleeding out Immortals, Archons, High Templar, so many high gas-intensive units. And that did slow down his carrier production, did slow down his Skytoss overall. Stopped him from getting into 3 Stargates, for example, instead of 2. And building up a good enough Archon count to actually protect those carriers and actually support them well. The Archons, High Templar, they're pretty important. They have important roles here in Skytoss. It isn't just about the carriers, but it's also about the ground army. And alas, there wasn't really one. There wasn't really one available. GG, well played. RagnaroK having a strong start for his team, but that's also what we expected. You know, RagnaroK, he is the ace player of Mystery Gaming for a reason. He is an amazing player, and he is the one to bring down. But I mentioned earlier, what about the team? What about the rest of the team? What about the rest of the players? Up next, we have Nanami versus Akyuu. Here we go. And I would favor Akyuu a little bit more here. Coming into this, if you're not familiar, Akyuu is a pretty old school player. I say an old school player. Has been around for a while. Recently name changed. Originally was Soy, then Takanashi, then Moku, and now Akyuu. So has had a bit of an identity crisis, has been changing names pretty regularly over the past couple of years. Shaking my head. But we have had the luxury of casting Takanashi or Moku or Akyuu relatively frequently over in our own weekly tournaments like the Grand Platypus Open, and they have been really impressing us. They have been really impressing me. I would say at this stage, Akyuu is maybe the number 2 Zerg player in China. I think I would rate Akyuu higher than Tudming at the moment. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe I have like some recency bias going on, but I do rate Akyuu pretty highly amongst the Chinese players. So Nanami is going to have his work cut out for him. Oh boy. But we'll see. We shall see. Again, Nanami, I haven't been able to cast him too frequently. I think the last time I casted Nanami was during the qualifiers for DreamHack Summer. So it's been a while. Has been a while. But regardless, Nanami is going to be here in another PVZ. Another PVZ. But a bit of a role reversal where Mystery Gaming has a Protoss and LittleFairy has the Zerg. Nami's a good player as well. I want to believe. I'm excited to see how they compare to each other. I do think that these two players are a little bit closer in skill compared to ForJumy and RagnaroK. Do you think so? And yeah, we'll see how this does turn out, as game 1 is going to be on altitude, and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of altitude, we have the blue Protoss player from the land of China. For Mystery Gaming, it is Nanami. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Zerg player for Team LittleFairy. It is Akyuu. Look, my brain is having a hard time because it's Akyuu versus Nanami, but in game they have very different names. We have Asuka versus Hidiano. I have been shaking my head. Just pick a name. Just pick one name. God damn it. Not like this. Not like this, Papi. It also doesn't help that in the UI, the Protoss is on top and the Zerg is on the bottom, and it's reversed. It's actually... I'm shaking my head. Alright, but here we go. We are getting into this, and so far we do have a hatch gas pool opener from our Zerg player, as to be expected. So, from my experience casting Takanashi or casting Akyuu, we have seen Akyuu be a relatively standard player. We haven't seen them be too crazy, too cheesy, or anything like that. Just some standard, solid macro play is at least our experiences with him. And that's what I expect to be seeing here in this series as well. Meanwhile, we do see a Gate Cyber expand from our Protoss, from Nanami, as he's going for a scout across the map. And again, so far everything is looking quite normal and quite standard. We had a pretty wild ZVP earlier with RagnaroK and ForJumy. I think things are going to be settling down a little bit more here. But did I speak too soon? Oh, Akyuu. Akyuu is doubling down. We have 8 Lings on the way. We're making more. This is going to be a Ling all-in. It's a Ling flood coming out from Akyuu. No drones are on the way. One way or another, the game is about to end. Lings are backing up back at home. Ling speed is still on the way. And Nanami has to piece this together. He has to try to get the scout off, but alas, he's being denied as the probe is being forced away. Oh, boy. Boys are being pulled as well. This Ling speed feels off. This opener almost feels like it should have been like a gas first. So yeah, Ling speed is going to hit quite late here in comparison, but you can see that the Lings and the drones are avoiding this adept. They're going the long way around. They're moving out to unscouted. And what do we have at home to defend? We have one Stalker. One Stalker to defend. Under the wall! The gateway is thrown down, and Nanami realizes what is going on. Good service area on that gateway. We should be able to bust it down. That's a kill, not a cancel. The Lings and the drones, they get on top of the pylon. The pylon will fall. But there is an Oracle on the way. Oh, there is an Oracle on the way. Drones are going back home. We'll see if that's going to work out here as the Lings bust into the main base, but the Oracle does come out. And with the arrival of the Oracle, this is going to be a defense for Nanami. We'll see how much energy we have. We'll see how hard the Oracle can go here as the Cybercore does go down. And Akyuu is forced back for the time being. But no, the energy's run out. We're out of energy. We're out of energy. And the Lings, they come back in to get us around. And this Nexus is going to fall. The Adept gets surrounded as well. Oh, barely does escape. Clutch moves there from Nanami. But the Nexus does go down. Void Ray's on the way. Honestly, we could go into the main. We could focus down that shield battery. Do you think that could occur? As Akyuu still has a lot of droning to do. And Lings, they dive back in. They force another cancel on the Nexus. They'll get a kill on the gateway. The Void Ray comes out, but for the most part, Akyuu is transitioning. I do think that these Lings could have done more. I do think they could have gone into the main. I think they could have killed the shield battery and also gotten the Adept at least. And maybe gotten more from there, but for now they're being forced back. I'm loving the rotation. Lings, they're coming back in, and they're looking for another surround. And they will get the Adept. It will be finished off. A couple of probes are going to go down as well. Akyuu is hurting. Back at home, we need spores. Oh, that is a lot of resources down the drain for the Protoss. And yeah, from here, Akyuu just saturating their bases, working on their queens. The Ling count is finally being thinned out, and Nanami is holding at the natural, but has been contained to one base for far too long. The tech was reset. If you remember, Warp Gate is being restarted and rebuilt. We can't even warp in any units. Twilight Council's on the way. Yo, are we feeling DTs? Where are we going with this Twilight Council? And it's not going to be DTs, it's going to be Glaive Adepts instead. Glaives are on the way. 2 more gateways. I believe that's 3 gates in total. And we may as well throw down more gateways and go for a 2-base all-in because there's no macroing out of this from Nanami. The Lings, they go for a scout. They confirm the Twilight Council. They confirm the upgrade. Oh my god, as we cancel and we go for Blink? Interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like we're all in. Regardless of what happens, we have to go all in. And going for Blink Stalkers, it's gonna take a little bit longer to really ramp up. It's a lot more expensive to afford all those Stalkers. I'm not too sure if that's gonna be the best move here. I think it is a good move if we plan to go for a longer game, but there's no shot. There's no shot we can get a 3rd base up and running. We're gonna try. Man, Nanami, he's bold. He's crazy. We're going for the 3rd. As he goes for the 3rd, the Lings, they do arrive. They get a surround on the Nexus, and there is going to be a cancel on this base. 3rd taken once again. And honestly, Akyuu, if he cuts workers soon, I think 66 drones is all he needs. He can go into a big Ling Roach Ravager all-in off of 3 bases. Before that can occur, would you have the Oracles dipping in between these, the main and the natural? Looking for some economic damage, and a Stasis Trap is going to go off. Catching 4 drones. Pretty good stuff here from Nanami. Slowly coming back in this game. There's a lot to catch up on. There's a lot to work on, but it's on the way. At the same time, we have 2 Oracles across the map, so this space is a little bit more vulnerable, but alas, there's plenty to defend. And Akyuu is forced back. And now I have to be a little bit concerned. Oh, as 2 Oracles get sniped. Maybe I shouldn't be. But I was about to say that at this point, I do think that Akyuu could have been a little bit greedier. Like, if we're going to be going for a longer game here, then I do think we should have been able to drone up. We should have drawn up to around 80 at this point. Maybe 75. We invested a lot into these Lings that didn't really pay for themselves. So Nanami is coming back into this. As Akyuu is double expanding, getting a 4th base, getting a 5th. Lings come in for a cancel, and they do deny the 4th base of Nanami. But here we go. We have Joan up to 75, and now we're focusing on army production. And I think we need to push out soon. We need to build up a Ling Roach army. Look to max out, essentially. But Akyuu's still droning. it felt a little bit indecisive getting to this stage for our Zerg player. But we get another surround. We're going to force another cancel on the 4th. But yeah, like here, once again, we've got a couple more drones on the way. Working on +2, working on bathing speed. But the max out is upon us. The max out is arriving for Akyuu. And he should be able to pull the trigger here. You can see that Nanami still has a lot of teching to do. We have a robo on the, or second robo on the way, a robotics bay, charge +1. But I don't believe any of that it should finish. As Akyuu is getting ready to collapse on the 4th base. Coming in from the front, coming in from behind. Yeah, there's no splash damage. And the Ling Bane Roach Ravager should be able to collapse on these Stalkers. Yeah, Stalkers, they're good units. They can trade efficiently. But there's nothing to support them. So many Stalkers go down. The 4th base is going to be broken. And alas, Nanami will not be able to come back in this game. Will not be able to recover. Was almost able to get a 4th up and running. That would have been insane. But alas, Akyuu is on top of that. Takes down most of the army. Takes down the 4th. Bathing speed is done, and he's even going for a run by. There we go. As the main army's distracted, the Bathings are going to be rolling into that mineral line. There is no way out. Oof. 10+ workers will go down. And that should be the nail in the coffin. +2 is done. Bathing speed. 4th base got taken out. And GG gets called. Akyuu will take game number 1. GG. Oh. I was a little bit concerned that we weren't able to hit that push soon enough, and that Nanami was going to be able to recover. But alas, Akyuu had enough of a lead and was doing a great job at least canceling the 3rd and the 4th time and time again. Even the natural as well was doing a great job with his Link counterattacks, and never really did allow Nanami to actually stand back up essentially after being knocked down. Was a little bit close. If Nanami was given maybe an extra minute, maybe an extra 60 seconds, then the 4th base would have been fortified, and then would have been a lot more difficult to really break. But alas, Nanami wasn't quite able to get there, and with that, Akyuu does take a lead in this series. And our next game is going to be Neo-Humanity. Oh my god. Crazy. Nanami going for the smallest map in the map pool. Very short rush distance by ground. And just like what we saw from RagnaroK, I expect to see something similar here on Neo-Humanity, where I expect to see something similar from Akyuu, where RagnaroK, he knocked down the rocks and he went for a big Queen Roach Ling all-in. They're pretty potent, they're pretty powerful. To be fair, it didn't really work for RagnaroK. Like, ForJumy was able to defend in time, but I still expect to see something similar. As here we go, in the bottom right-hand corner of Neo-Humanity, we have for Mystery Gaming, the Blue Protoss. It is Nanami. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have for Mystery Gaming, for Team LittleFairy, it is Akyuu. Here we go. Akyuu breaking expectations with his new ID. Maybe. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased because Akyuu plays in our tournaments, but I do kind of favor Akyuu in this best of 3 overall. I do. Oh, sorry, in this best of 2. But again, maybe it's just because I've been seeing more of Akyuu recently, more so than Nanami. So we'll see. We'll see if Nanami can fight back. As we don't have a standard opener here. It's going to be a hatch pool gas. So a delayed gas geyser from Akyuu. Very interesting. Okay. Akyuu I was curious if he was gonna go gasless, but no, we do still have a gas on the way. It is delayed. Because of this, we're gonna have delayed link speed and potentially delayed roaches as well. So an interesting choice from Akyuu, just trying to be a little bit more greedy, trying to cut some corners as he's getting into this opener. As we're getting into game 2. I'm catching up with chat. Sorry, might have been covered before. The watchtowers at the bases, can they still take the gold at a normal base distance? So you have to knock down the towers. So basically there are rocks next to the towers, and if you knock down the rocks, then they kill the towers, and then you can kill the rocks, and then you can take that base as a normal base. Typically we don't see the gold bases being taken outside of like late game situations. It's never taken as a 4th, it's never taken as a 5th even. But as a 6th base, you know, that's kind of the in the late game, that's when we see that base being taken. As Akyuu's doing it again. But with delay, like I look, I'll be honest, I'm not fully understanding the logic behind this. So the gases are delayed, link speed is delayed. We're going for a big link flood here from Akyuu. Just like the previous game, we have a 3rd base behind this. There is a safety shield battery, but the wall is not a wall, and the lings, they're gonna flood in. They can get on top of the pylon, they can depower this gateway. Oh no, and if the gateway gets depowered, then that may just be game. Pylon goes down. The adept doesn't come out. No, it does. Okay, the adept barely does come out in time. Whew, that was close. That was 1 second off. But that will still delay warp gate. The lings, they get into the main base. Behind this, Akyuu is droning. But good target firing, good focus firing here from Akyuu. As he gets 7 probes. 7 probes and the pylon and a delayed warp gate. Well worth it here for Akyuu. And we can see Nanami is going all I say all in. Nanami is going to be reacting here quite aggressively. We have glaives on the way. We have another gateway as well. Of course, the Twilight Council was scouted, so we should be seeing a Roach Warren momentarily from our Zerg player in a couple of seconds. Overlord is coming in for a scout. Akyuu needs to recognize how many gateways there are, how committed these glaive adepts are going to be. So far, I believe 3 gateways in total. There's that Roach Warren. And Akyuu can afford to drone for a little bit longer, as he goes in to confirm that there is, of course, an upgrade on the way. It isn't going to be DTs. Oh, that is a 5th gateway, by the way. So we should be working towards 6, which would be very committed from the Protoss. We got anything above 4 is pretty insane already. As the Overlord is just confirming this, and Akyuu is going to be cutting workers at 40, or 41 actually, which is ideal. We have roaches on the way, lings as well. And Nanami has a little work to do. 5 adepts being warped in at a time. That's a lot of adepts. But the roaches, they do come out to meet this. They do take out one of those adepts. They do force back the army of Nanami. And there's no turning around from this. There's no turning back. Nanami has to get damage done. As the prism is going into the main. The lings are going to be able to keep up there. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. As it looks like maybe 1 drone went down, but nothing too significant. As the adepts shade into the natural, and finally economic damage is being done. A lot of drones are going down. 6, 7. Almost 8 workers. Oof. A pretty big blow to the economy. No, I'm sure Nanami wanted a little bit more damage, but 7 workers isn't too bad. As Nanami takes a worker lead. behind this, expanding, taking the linear third. As Akyuu checks the triangular third base location and does get eyes on the new third base of Nanami. Once again, good target firing. And the game is going to be settling on from here. Game is going to be settling down. Nanami has a solid economy, is taking up into Immortals, already has one Immortal ready for the Roach counterattack. And from any kind of early harassment, Nanami has recovered. Got +1, Blink on the way. The Prism still wreaking havoc in the mineral lines and still getting more drone kills. 2 more workers go down. Aye, aye, aye. And we'll see if we tech up in any other crazy direction. For the timing, it's just going to be Blink Stalkers and Immortals from our Protoss. When it comes to the Zerg, just Lingbane Roach Ravager. Just a pretty standard setup overall. It's a pretty standard setup as Nanami's just fortifying himself. This is the power of neo-humanity, and we talk about this all the time, right? Where there are a lot of defensive features of this map, and a big part of that are the choke points. Because that Nanami should be pretty heavily fortified on these 3 bases, and it's going to be difficult to really break this defensive position. Ideally, as a Zerg player, you do want the Protoss to expose themselves, to move out onto the map, kind of like this. And take a fight on the map instead of trying to break these entrenched positions. But we'll see. We'll see what Akyuu goes for. As for the time being, he has been kind of struggling to keep up with the harassment. Has been struggling to keep up with the Adepts. Baneling Run-By is being set up. Nanami working on the 4th base. The 4th is on the way. Banelings are rolling in, but there's plenty in position. The Banelings, it looks like they may just barely make it in. Oof, 9 probes go down. Not amazing, but good damage nonetheless. Oh, as Nanami's going into double Colossus production. Now, before the Colossi hit the field, Akyuu is maxed. Akyuu is maxed out here, essentially maxed out with Lingbane Roach Ravager. We're looking to break either the 3rd base or the natural. We do need to go for one of these bases, though, before the Colossi come out. Again, Akyuu doesn't have Hive Tech, doesn't have Vipers, doesn't have a good answer for Colossi, especially defensively. And here we go. We're trying to set up a surround, but it has been spotted. Force fields are thrown down ahead of time. Banelings are rolling in, but once again, the Colossus, they do come out. Big swipes are going off. Despite that, the Lingbane does bust on in. The Immortals are exposed. The Stalkers, they blink back, exposing the Immortals. And without Immortals, the Roach Ravager reigns supreme. They get on top of the Colossi. There's no shield battery. There's no overcharge. And it looks like Akyuu is going to be able to take this series, is going to be able to tie things up for his team, for LittleFairy, as the Stalkers go down. Akyuu, Moku, Takanashi. Call him whatever you want, but he does take down the 3rd, and every single high-tech unit, there are only Stalkers and Zealots left, and that is not going to be enough. Again, these early Link Floods have been working wonders for Akyuu. And he's going to be able to tie up the series for his team. You know, RagnaroK had a strong start for Mystery Gaming, but it's not a one-man show. It's about the team. It's about the family, Papi. GG gets called. Akyuu will take game number 2 and take down Nanami 2-0. GG, well played. We are tied up 2-2, and here in game 3, Mystery Gaming could be eliminated. Unironically, up next we have Bunny versus Coffee, and as we saw last night, Bunny is not necessarily in form right now. He is not in peak condition, and Coffee is a terrifying player. Coffee is arguably the ace player of LittleFairy. He can take down anyone, even these like high tier players, these top tier players like your Beyonds, your Cures. Coffee he's a sniper. I would say even in TVT, especially in TVT. Uh-oh. Ay. Here we go. I'm really concerned. Like, I really want to see Mystery Gaming go all the way. I want to see Mystery Gaming do well. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned for them. I love Bunny. I'm a big Bunny fan. But Coffee is not one to be taken lightly. So this is going to be a spicy TVT. Here we go. Regardless, again, congratulations to Akyuu for taking his series 2-0. Again, really catching Nanami off guard multiple times with his Link Floods. Able to get some really early advantages and snowball out of control from there. And just not to allow Nanami to get comfortable and get into a solid 3 or 4 base economy. To get into a solid army. Really solid play there out of Akyuu. And it comes down to this TVT. Now, if this goes 1-1, we go to the ace match. We go all the way to game 7. If it's 2-0 in either direction, then that is going to be the end of the series. And here we go in the bottom right-hand corner of Near Humanity. We have the South Korean Terran for Mystery Gaming. It is Bunny. I was waiting for the zoom. And in the top left-hand corner of Neo Humanity, we have his opponent for Team LittleFairy, the Chinese Terran player. It is Coffee. Coffee, a surprising player to be here, actually. Oh my god. As Coffee's going to be popping off already with a proxy Rax. With a proxy 2 Rax even. Now, I was going to get into the fact that I think a lot of people thought that Coffee was retiring. I thought we all assumed that Coffee would be retiring after the first season of WTL. If you remember, Coffee was on IG, and then he left. He left Invictus Gaming at the start of the year, and I think there was an announcement that Coffee was going to be stepping away, that he was going to be taking a step back, and he did take a break. He did take a break from competitive play. But like after a couple of months, he came back. He came back to competing. He came back to playing. It was really great to see him performing again. I know he's a fan favorite. A lot of people have a lot of love for Coffee, especially because of how unique of a player he is. So yeah, I'm happy to see he's back. I don't know in what capacity. I don't know how much he's like investing his time into StarCraft like he used to. But he's been getting some pretty good results. Some pretty good results recently, especially in the Team League format. And we'll see if he can overcome and overpower his opponents here in Bunny. Bunny going for a double gas opener, so very safe play from our Korean Terran. This is going to be ideal for him. He's got that factory on the way for the Hellion. Meanwhile, Coffee is banking up his Reapers, and it looks like he will be found out. Bunny knows. He does scout ahead of time. And now it comes down to the control. Bunny has to be very careful with this first Reaper. He has to keep it alive. He has to pull the boys. He has to pull his SCVs and make sure he keeps... Oh god, he's alive! As Coffee does try to dive on him. Hellion is on the way. First SCV goes down. Second Reaper has arrived, and it looks like Bunny is holding. Bunny is holding. The Hellion pops out as well, and Coffee is transitioning. Coffee has a factory on the way back at home. Tries to rotate around. Oh, but he is going to be hunted down. Going to be trading a Reaper for a Reaper. The Hellion should clean up what is left as well. As I say that, another Reaper comes in from behind. Up. Oh. But yeah, Coffee has lost too much at this point. Has lost too much momentum. And Coffee is on the back foot. Oof. Tries to go up the ramp. Loses another Reaper. Hellion gets across and is going to delay, or going to try to delay that factory. Going to try to get some economic damage done as well. Getting a full scout, confirming the factory, confirming the CC on the way. And after all is said and done, Coffee is down in workers. Coffee is down in tech. As we can see, Bunny already has Cyclone production on the way. Both players are getting into Cyclones, to be fair. Both players are expanding. But I do have to give Bunny the edge. After those initial trades. Now, Coffee isn't out of this. It was a less than ideal start to the game, but, you know, he can try to come back. Bounce back here in game 1. Still has 4 Reapers. Is looking for an opening. Goes into the main, but the Hellions are in position. Ugh. Bleeding out another Reaper. And with this medevac, with the arrival of this medevac Bunny, he can be aggressive across the map. He is boosting across the map as we speak. Likewise, Coffee also going to be quite assertive as well. He's got his own medevac, his own Cyclones. We will see who locks onto who. And where this takes us. And it looks like Buddy just has a little bit too much here. Good juggling as well with these Cyclones. Yeah, Buddy just forcing his way into the natural base. It's going to be a close defense. The tank does come out just in time. Up, up. Oh my god. As it looks like Coffee will barely hold with that tank. The tank being the MVP here. And Bunny is not slowing down. He's rallying everything across the map. Wants to end the game while he can. Takes a lot of hits on that Raven. Oh. And was a little bit too much damage. Bunny is going to back off. He's going to respect the position of Coffee. He's going to go back home. Behind us, we already have the 3rd CC on the way for Bunny. It's on the way, but Coffee's already got his orbital in production as well. We have a game. We do have a game on our hands. I also just realized, I think it's been the entire day today, but there's no in-game music. I just realized. I knew that we were missing something. It's feeling a little bit off, but yeah. I think they pointed out that they don't have continuous music on, unfortunately. It feels bad, man. Feels bad. But for now, we do see both players are just establishing their 3rd bases. Bunny, likewise. Coffee as well. Coffee a little bit later when it comes to landing his on location. And we can see that reflected in the overall supplies. Oh, let's ask and you shall receive the music. It's going on. Ah, it's beautiful. As Bunny's going to be rotating around. And the goal here for Bunny is to deny the 3rd base for as long as he can. take control of this area. Coffee, likewise, going to be meeting up with him. Repositioning his tanks. Oof. But Bunny is the first to siege. Annihilates that Cyclone. Goes for a drop into the main. And SCVs are going down. Again, like, Coffee cannot afford these losses. And these Marines, they're going ham. 11, 12, 13. Essentially, the entire mineral line goes down. Ay, ay, ay. At the same time, we collapse on the main army. Big disables are going off. The Vikings land. Coffee's being pulled apart. And Bunny is fighting back, is redeeming himself after the first day of WTL. After struggling against young Yakov. Yeah, with his reinforcements rallying on in, it looks like there is too much. GG gets called, and Bunny will take game number 1. GG. Bunny fighting back for his team, fighting back for Mystery Gaming. One more win, and the team will advance on into the next round. Coffee struggling a little bit after being cheeky, to be fair, right? Coffee, the onus was on him. He's the player that went for the proxy 2-racks, right? He's the player who initiated the aggression, and the proxy 2-racks was scattered. It was scattered ahead of time. Bunny was able to prepare himself, was able to pull SCVs, and he was able to shut it down quite well. And from that moment, Coffee was behind. Coffee was struggling to bounce back after not really doing enough damage with his 2-racks. Was trying to recover. But Bunny was able to snowball out of control, get a faster third base up and running, get his army out, and yeah, be quite assertive towards the end there. Really well done. And again, I think a lot of us were expecting a lot from Bunny this season, and he did underdeliver so far in the qualifiers, and I feel like he has some making up. He has to make up for that, and so far he's doing so. And here he is in the top left-hand corner for Mystery Gaming. It is Bunny. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Babylon, we have representing LittleFairy. This is his map of choice. It is Coffee. Here we go. This time, the Raxes are at home. This time, the Raxes are back at home. We see a double gas opener from Coffee. Bunny, going to be a little bit more economic, a little bit more greedy. We do see him setting up for a Rax expand. Do love to see it. Especially after game 1, the likelihood of Coffee going for another proxy 2-racks is very low. So Bunny is gambling a little bit, and it's going to pay off. It is going to pay off. He should be able to get away with a more economic opener overall. Coffee instead just opening up quite standard, quite normal. A relatively standard and safe opener from Coffee, as he's going to be able to get into a faster factory. There we go. CC's thrown down on location, and Coffee is working on said factory instead. So we'll see if he can kind of find a way to make up for that slight economic deficit that he's going to have. Of course, he can be a little bit more assertive with his units. He could even go into a one-base all-in. I doubt that's going to happen, but, you know, can do so. We have seen this from players like Gumiho, players like Bjorn even. There it is. CC is thrown down eventually for Coffee. And we are going to be getting into more standard game. Going to be settling on in, and again, you know, Bunny, he's a player that has a lot of prestige behind his name. He was never like a big champion like your Bjorns or your Marus, sure, but Bunny, he was always a very solid player, and he earned a fan base as a result. He would even stream from time to time. You know, had some decent English as well. It's great to see him back. It's not the same Bunny that, you know, was active before, that was a dominant force before. But at the same time, I don't think we expected him to struggle as much as he has been recently. So, yeah, hopefully this is the beginning of a comeback, the beginning of maybe even a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum. Come back to us, buddy. Come back. It's what we want. We'll see as... Oh, interesting. So last game, we saw Bunny go for a Cyclone drop. This time, he is going for that medevac once again, but he's not going for a Cyclone. He's going for a tank instead. Now, this is a little bit risky. The reason why is that early game Cyclones in TVT are pretty standard. You know, they're very solid defensive units or very versatile units. They shut down drops, they shut down Banshee openers, or any kind of early game harassment unit. Like Cyclones, they're pretty powerful early on in TVTs. To skip the Cyclone and go straight to that tank is risky and is a very aggressive move from Bunny. Is going to be moving out across the map. Is it going to be looking to maybe take control of the natural, maybe try to siege up and take control of the production? We'll see how Bunny pieces this together, and we'll see how Coffee is able to defend. As the tank is on the way. And there we go, Bunny just rushing his way up the ramp. Gonna be covering that natural base. Oh, big tank volley goes off. Oh my god. And he is within range of that natural. Oof. Tank takes down the Hellion. Cyclone one shot away from going down as well. Now the Banshee is soon about to have enough for a disable. Oh my god. And we have a counter tank shot as well. There we go. As the Raven comes out, we also have a Viking. Oh my god. As the Cyclone was barely outranging that tank. Here we go. The Vikings have arrived. They can shoo away those Ravens. That CC taking a lot of hits. Up. There we go. It looks like Bunny, he does unsiege in time. He backs off. He gets 4 SCV kills. And just like that, Bunny takes an economic lead. He didn't lose his tanks. He lost a couple of Marines, but nothing too important. And he just repositions in the main and takes down a depot for free. The Ravens! Oh my god. The Ravens even take a volley from the Vikings. And Bunny's going to be unsieging, and he's going to race back home. I'm sure he's happy with the damage he dealt. He got worker kills, he got a depot. Oh, and Coffee's going all in. I apologize. I was hyper fixated on like the trades that were happening and the fights that were going on. Coffee went for a second starport. He's going for a 2-port all in. So basically, Coffee is going for mass Vikings, enough for air control, and then from there he's going to go into a Liberator. Now, the problem with what Coffee is doing is that Bunny did have the Viking lead initially. He did go into Vikings first. So I'm pretty sure Bunny actually has more Vikings than Coffee at the moment, despite the fact that he's making 3 at a time. This is going to be close. Here we go. The Vikings are pushing on forward. We do have a big anti-armor missile on the Vikings. A Bunny disables as well. Coffee, can he hold? It looks like he will take control of the air. The Vikings, they force back the army of Bunny. He's forced to unsiege. He's forced to back off. Okay, we have 5 Vikings from Coffee against the 4 of Bunny. And Bunny's being bullied away. Loses the Viking, loses the Liberator. Bunny also going into his own triple Viking production. Who is going to come out on top? Boys are being pulled. The Vikings are trying to tank whatever they can. A lot of SCVs are going down. Oh my god, the entire mineral line. And this is too much. This is far too much. GG gets called. Coffee loses everything on the low ground. And Bunny takes the series 2-0. And that will secure the victory for Mystery Gaming. Mystery Gaming will take down LittleFairy 4-2 in Code A. GG, well played. My condolences to LittleFairy. I had faith. I believed in the power of Coffee. But maybe I should have never doubted Bunny to begin with, as at least in this series, Bunny was looking good, looking a lot more assertive as well. I think that's maybe something that I was a little bit critical of when it came to Bunny versus Young Yakov, because it felt like Bunny was just allowing Young Yakov to do whatever he wanted. But here, again, was dictating the pace of the games, and GG, well played. With that, LittleFairy will be eliminated from World Team League Code A, and Mystery Gaming advances on. And meanwhile, we're going to be going on a short break. When we return, Team Roddy versus IG. See you soon.